I'm sorry to have to tell you that today the number of deaths recorded from COVID in the UK has surpassed 100,000. And it's hard to compute the sorrow contained in that grim statistic. The years of life lost, the family gatherings not attended, and for so many relatives, the missed chance even to say goodbye. I offer my deepest condolences to everyone who's lost a loved one. Fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, and the many grandparents who've been taken. And to all those who grieve, we make this pledge that when we've come through this crisis, we will come together as a nation to remember everyone we lost and to honour the selfless heroism of all those on the front line who gave their lives to save others. We will remember the courage of countless working people, not just our amazing NHS and care workers, but shop workers, transport staff, pharmacists, teachers, police, armed forces, emergency services, and many others who kept our country going during our biggest crisis since the Second World War. We will commemorate the small acts of kindness, the spirit of volunteering, and the daily sacrifice of millions who placed their lives on hold time and again as we fought each new wave of the virus, buying time for our brilliant scientists to come to our aid. In that moment of commemoration, we will celebrate the genius and perseverance of those who discovered the vaccines and the immense national effort, never seen before in our history, which is now underway to distribute them, one that has now seen us immunise over 6.8 million people across the United Kingdom. And when those vaccines have finally freed us from this virus and put us on a path to recovery, we will make sure we learn the lessons and reflect and prepare. And until that time, the best and most important thing we can all do to honour the memory of those who have died is to work together with ever greater resolve to defeat this disease, and that is what we will do. I'm now going to hand over to Chris for the slides.
Thank you, Prime Minister. On this very sad day, I've just got three slides. The first is the number of people testing positive for COVID in the UK. And as you can see on this graph, the number peaked at an extremely high number. It is still at a very high number, but it has been coming down. I want to just put one caution on that, which is that Office for National Statistics data demonstrates a rather slower decrease, and I think we need to be careful that we do not relax too early. Next slide, please. The number of people in hospital with COVID is still an incredibly high number, over 35,000 people. And as you can see in this graph, it is flattened off. It is not still rising overall. It is substantially above the peak in April. And over this time, it looks as if it's coming down very slightly in some areas, including London and the southeast and the east of England. But there are some areas of the country where it is still not convincingly reducing. So it is still at a very high level throughout the country, and NHS staff are working incredibly hard with many very sick COVID patients. Next slide, please. And finally, on this day, the number of deaths. At the moment, this looks as if this has flattened out, but at a very high level. So the most recent 7-day average for deaths, the rolling 7-day average, is 1,242 deaths, an incredibly high number. And I think we have to be realistic that the rate of mortality, the number of people dying a day, will come down relatively slowly over the next 2 weeks. And will probably be flat for a while now. So we will still, unfortunately, be having additional deaths to add to that very sad total that the Prime Minister talked about. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Chris. Simon, anything you want to add?
Well, I think really just to thank my fellow staff across the health service for everything that you have done over the course of the last year. This Sunday, it'll be a year since the first 2 patients with coronavirus were treated in hospital in Newcastle, and it'll be a year since the first flight returned from Wuhan to Arrow Park Hospital for quarantining of people returning to this country. And it's a year in which over 250,000 severely ill coronavirus patients have been looked after in hospital. And those staff who've been looking after those patients also, of course, experience what this pandemic has meant as daughters and as sons and as parents and as grandchildren with family and friends and neighbours. And so this is not a year that anybody is going to want to remember, but nor is it a year that across the health service any of us will ever forget.
Thanks very much.